Hey folks, people have been coming to Florida, and more specifically South Florida, for decades now. As a matter of fact, it's the #2 destination for people to come to behind Texas in the entire United States. You know what a lot of folks don't know is that there are also a lot of folks that are actually leaving Florida and South Florida. So stick around and get the 411 on why folks are basically leaving South Florida. Why are folks leaving South Florida? Probably one of the oddest reasons, is people think that South Florida is weird, And those of you that have heard of Florida Man, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, and for the uninitiated, what is Florida Man? Florida Man, basically, it's the generic name for anybody in the state of Florida. Actually, most recently, it's been around the South Florida area. It's kind of the meme that goes out. And it's on social media big time. But when somebody does something kind of strange, like some guy decides that he wants to try to use dental floss on an alligator's mouth to try to clean out some of the stuff in there, or somebody sticks his hand inside an alligator and waves to his parents or waves to his friends and turns around and next thing you know, he's got a stub for a wrist. That's the Florida Man. That's what's
or somebody that's on a jet ski and then goes through the floods that you have.
This is true. Oh yeah, and the one for those of you that missed it, you got to check out social media for when Fort Lauderdale had its flooding back in April. You had a guy that was basically jet skiing down the main street, didn't realize that the water got real shallow and the jet ski stopped, but he didn't. That's Florida Man, folks. So it's kind of the weird things. The other thing is that in addition to the Florida Man, the weirdness from the Florida Man, there's kind of a perception that the folks here in South Florida, in and around some of the certain areas, since it's such a diverse mix of people, a diverse mix of cultures, that basically there are things that people do, that other folks do may perceive as being weird. So folks, in addition to the weirdness, there's a perception, and it's not without some foundation, that we have overpopulation down in South Florida. What I mean by that is that folks that have been coming down here in South Florida for years know that there's two seasons. The high season, which is where everybody else in the country comes during the winter time when it's nice and the weather's nice and everything else. There's also the low season, which is kind of where we are now in the summertime, where it's hot and it's humid and it's muggy, which is another reason why folks are leaving. But we'll get into more of that later. So there's a perception of overpopulation, and that the infrastructure itself hasn't been keeping pace with the population, keeping pace with what's going on. As a matter of fact, folks, I can speak to this directly without fault. Without a day goes by where we're driving up and down Interstate 95, or heading out Interstate 75, where there's not some sort of construction going on or something going on. And I mean, I grew up in Northern Virginia, and there was construction going on in Interstate 95 when I was growing up, long time ago, back when we actually used shovels to move dirt instead of machinery. The other thing is that for a lot of folks is also, and again, there's some validity in this, but we've talked to some younger folks who are leaving, and basically they say, there's an overpopulation of retirees. Well, come on, let's face it. I mean, for generations, folks have been coming down to South Florida to retire. If you're coming down, if you're from the Northeast or you're from the Midwest, you don't want to spend the winter months when you're getting ready to retire. You don't want to spend the winter months sitting there freezing your buns off. You want to come down to South Florida. You want to play some golf. You want to go to the beach. You want to go out and visit all the neat, cool places. But for a lot of folks, basically, they just don't want to be surrounded by so many retirees and so many over 55 communities. But I mean, hey, that's what folks are telling us. One of the other reasons that folks are leaving is the cost of living. Now, it's no secret that the cost of living in South Florida is higher than the national average. What a lot of folks don't know is that over the past 2 years, in some respects, the cost of living down in South Florida, and especially in the Broward and Miami-Dade counties, it's gone up by almost 48%. I mean, it's not just the cost of housing. Sure, we've had increases in property values, but with those increases in property values also is an increase in property taxes. The other part of it is also with an increase in property values is an increase in insurance premiums. Now, this isn't really helped by the fact that a lot of insurance companies are basically bailing out of Florida they're just leaving, 1, 2, 3. Even, I mean, as we've mentioned once before, the state-sponsored insurance company, otherwise known as the Assurer of Last Resort, Citizens, they're going to have a record number of policies written this year. Over 2 million policies will be written in 2023. That's a new record for them. And again, we're still having to basically fight to keep other insurance options available here. So the cost of insurance is going through the roof. As a matter of fact, we were talking to one of our prospective clients, and they were looking at $1 million property. The insurance alone on $1 million property, okay, is going to be over $20,000 a year. Okay?
You got to be kidding.
No, I mean, and this is on top of going out and doing all the things that you need to do to kind of help control that insurance. I mean, you get a wind mitigation report, you get the inspection done, you go ahead and make sure the roof is in good shape. Okay, all these things that you do that we've talked about in some of our other videos that you can do to help keep the insurance costs down, it's still going to be $1 million property, which is, I mean, down here, there's a lot of properties that start at $1 million. $20,000 a year in insurance? Come on, folks. That's a significant enough reason for a lot of folks to consider feeding the hell out of South Florida. The next thing that comes up is the real estate taxes. Now, again, we talked about this in our other videos, okay? With an increase in property value, also comes an increase in real estate taxes. Now, thank goodness Broward County, as we've mentioned before, Broward County has kept the millage rate. They've kept it at basically the same rate for the past 16 years. But still, I mean, you're still going to go back and see that you're going to see an increase in real estate taxes, okay? And that on top, when you factor that in on top of an increase in your property insurance, I mean, it's enough to make people kind of have second thoughts. Utilities. This has become a major issue for folks, okay? It's hot down here, and like I said, in the summertime, you have 2 seasons. You have hot and you have damn hot, okay? And what a lot of folks are doing is they're finding that they have to run the air conditioner year round. And that we do get a couple of months where it's cool enough where you leave the windows open and everything. But because of the higher utility costs and the higher cost of bringing utilities to South Florida, the cost of utilities are going up. As a matter of fact, we're seeing a 7 to 10% increase in utility bills in 2023 over those from 2022. Now, folks, it used to be that South Florida was all about the tourism industry. Everything that was going on in South Florida, be it Fort Lauderdale, be it West Palm Beach, be it Miami-Dade, everything is around the tourism industry, okay? And what we've seen recently is that even though there is an influx of a lot of new industries, we have high tech coming in, we have banking coming in, we've had healthcare ever since hospitals were invented down here in South Florida, because folks have been coming down here to retire. But what we're seeing now is that there's a need for other types of industries that we just don't have the capabilities for. Manufacturing. It's so much more expensive to have things that are manufactured shipped into South Florida that there's a real need now for things to be manufactured. And I'm talking about stuff like roof tiles for houses. I'm talking about metal parts, metal components for building houses, because we don't want to build houses out of wood down here for the simple reason that you can get termite infestations, especially with the humidity coming down. So there's a real need for manufacturing going on that is needed to be down here. The other thing is that pharmaceuticals, okay? The property values are so high down here that pharmaceutical companies can't afford to go ahead and build the big labs that they need to build it. And that would be something that would go hand in hand with the wonderful healthcare industry that's going on down here. But people are finding out that because of these, there's a high cost of living down here because they basically can't afford it. Another reason folks are leaving South Florida is because of weather and the natural disasters. I mean, we've been fortunate. We haven't really been smacked with a hurricane since Irma came through here in 2017. But if the odds are, and a lot of folks are banking on this, the odds are we're going to get hit again real soon. In fact, we are anticipating in excess of 20 named storms this hurricane season, in addition to the flooding that we had in Fort Lauderdale in April of this past year of 2023, the flooding that's come through. We're getting a lot more rain coming through. We're getting a lot more natural disasters. I mean, we've had a couple of sinkholes open up. We've had buildings collapse. Folks, they're just afraid of what's going to happen, and they're leaving. They're leaving because they're afraid of the weather and the natural disasters.
Right, and the financial impact on themselves.
Exactly, which not coincidentally also contributes to the higher insurance costs. And in addition to the high cost of living, in addition to the abundance of retirees, in addition to concerns over the job and the economy, I mean, there's a number of miscellaneous reasons that folks are leaving Florida. Okay, one of them is politics. Now, without getting into a whole lot of detail and without trying to minimize the risk of basically pissing people off on either side, South Florida is a very, very politically diverse area, and there's very little middle ground. Folks are either very, very strong for one party or very, very strong for another party. And that causes people to leave. if the party that's in power is not one that you support and not one you believe in, folks are leaving Florida because they don't like certain political views. The other thing is traffic. I mean, we've talked about this on almost every one of our videos. And in fact, check out some of our videos on some of the specific locations like Pompano Beach, Deerfield Beach, Lighthouse Point, Fort Lauderdale. We'll talk about traffic, okay? But traffic down here, because the infrastructure is not keeping pace with the number of folks that are coming to South Florida to live or coming to South Florida to visit, okay, we have traffic problems that are going crazy. The other thing is that because the visitors here and the residents here in South Florida are not necessarily from here, as a matter of fact, probably the largest minority in South Florida are folks that are from South Florida. And that there are a lot of folks from South Florida, they're leaving themselves too. But because a lot of folks that come and visit South Florida or live in South Florida because they're not from South Florida, there is little consistency in how people drive, which is causing all kinds of problems with traffic, and it causes an increase in accidents. The other thing is that we mention it throughout most of our videos, but another reason that people are leaving South Florida is because of critters, and I'm going to use that as a generic term, okay? That means everything from mosquitoes that actually need the runways at Fort Lauderdale International Airport to land, to all the other kinds of critters that are around. Now, we have a huge number of iguanas, and some of those suckers are 2 and 3 feet long. Now, our little Buford wants to go out and play with them, but that's not really a good idea for him. The other thing that we're seeing an increase in the number of folks that are having alligator sightings in ponds and alligator sightings in canals.
Oh, and pools. And
pools, as a matter of fact, that's right. A couple days ago in the news, there was somebody that had a 6-foot alligator that climbed into their pool. How it got there, I don't know. What it's going to do, I don't know. The other thing too is that if you've ever watched any of the TV shows on Discovery Channel, you'll see that there are folks going out every year into the Everglades that are trying to go back and control the python population in the Everglades. Pythons are not indigenous to this area. They were brought in by folks who basically had them as pets and let them go.
Oh yeah, it was guardian of the glades.
So yeah, you have issues like that. And folks, you have the June bugs, you have mosquitoes, you have flies, you have all kinds, and let's not forget Suzanne's favorite animal, snakes. Suzanne, she loves snakes.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, really. And those poisonous frogs.
Exactly. We got to be very, very careful taking little Buford out and around because they have these frogs that basically secrete some kind of a toxin. If your pet happens to give it a little lick or give it a little sniff, it could kill it. So folks, I mean, and in all transparency, I mean, these are some of the reasons that we've heard and some of the reasons that folks have told us as to why they're leaving South Florida. Okay, but again, you have to kind of put this all together and kind of judge it to yourself. Now, I mean, this is in no way indicative of everything that's going on and everything that's happening down in the South Florida area. And like anything else, you need to make your own decision. One of the things that we suggest is that you do your homework. Reach out to experts like my team and I. If you have any questions, okay, if you have any comments, we certainly would welcome those comments. If you would, go ahead and you can give us a little call, you can text us, you can tweet us, you can click on the link below and set up a little calendar invite for like 40 to 45 minutes. We can chat about some of your concerns. If you're thinking about coming to South Florida, give us a call. If you're thinking about leaving South Florida, drop us a note, give us a call, let us know why you're looking to leave. We want to make sure that we convey everything that we can out to everybody. Okay. So.
And do comment your thoughts and let us know if you're staying in Florida or if you're thinking about moving elsewhere.